Yitzchak himself was 37 years old, right? 40? He could have found his own shidduch. He wasn't a baby. And you could think that by the time somebody is 40 years old or 37 years old, it's time for the parents to back off and let him make his own decisions. And yet the Torah tells us how Avraham sent Eliezer, and he sent him with his whole wealth, and he wrote over all his properties to Yitzchak to make sure that the right girl will marry him. So the point of the story is that you're never too old. Parents continue to parent, even after the children are adults. Of course, you have to use a different approach. You can't send them to their room when they're 37, but you still have to be involved. You still have to be parenting, because there's always room for growth, and you're always older and wiser than your kids. But let's talk about some of the challenges. Somebody pointed out the difference between a traditional family and a modern family, and it's a true observation, and it's a little scary. The difference is that in a secular family, in a modern family, children are in no hurry to grow up. In fact, they don't want to grow up. So the lifestyle of America, of modern America, is that you delay growing up as long as possible. So you see 30-year-olds who are still acting like children. They just don't want to become mature. They're afraid of getting married, they're afraid of becoming parents, they're delaying everything, except making money. In a traditional family, the children can't wait to grow up. They want to become mommies and tatis, they want to start families, they want to have kids. Why is that? It's because raising children has two parts to it. You raise them out of something, away from something, childishness, whatever it is, and you're raising them to something. In other words, parents have a life, and the life is so attractive and so meaningful that children can't wait to become part of it. So in a frum family, children can't wait to ben shlich, to make kiddush, to daven from a siddur and shul like a grown-up. These are things that are appealing and attractive, so children can't wait to grow up. But we're finding that to some degree, that attractiveness is not so strong as it used to be. They don't necessarily want what they see. And they're not in a hurry to step into your shoes. So what do? Instead of fighting with them, we have to do something to make what we're living for a little more appealing, a little more convincing, a little more compelling, so that they'll want to do it again, like in the good old days. Instead, what happens is we start to back off. Okay, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. This is not what they're looking for. They're not looking to get away with less. They need something more compelling, more convincing, so that they can get excited about something and devote themselves to it and so on. So in a Chassidish story, the previous Rebbe writes, when he was a child, his father was so strict with him, even though he was a ben yochid. His father was so strict with him, but very sensible. And he writes many times in his diary that firmness is what gives children an excitement in what they're doing. I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but this young couple were telling me they both just became frum. They didn't really know much. They were in Colorado trying their best on their own, which is an amazing story itself. But just in conversation, I don't remember the context, she had a little boy who was about 7 and a little girl about 5. And the little boy was a very smart little kid, like a little professor, with glasses and everything. The whole look. So she said, just in conversation, that he knows that the day that he fights with his sister, he won't be allowed to daven that day. Because how can you make your sister cry and then daven? No. You won't be able to daven that day. Which I thought at the moment, that was so obvious and so brilliantly simple. What do we do instead? Very often, if the kids are fighting, you get angry at them and you tell them to go daven. As if the davening is the punishment. And then we wonder why they hate davening. So when you're strict, it doesn't discourage. It gives children a much deeper commitment, because they see that this is serious, they take it serious. So we're making a mistake when we think we have to be lenient, it's not so important, okay, so he doesn't daven. That doesn't inspire anybody. On the other hand, forcing is also not a plan. So somebody wrote a book, I don't know if it's a good book or not, but the title is good. The title is, No, You Don't Have to Share. And the idea of the book is very simple. We're determined to teach our children to share. A friend comes over, you have to share. But really, are we teaching our children to be generous? Or are we just imposing a law that they're going to hate? They don't learn to share. They learn to hide it before the friend comes over so that they don't have to share. So when we tell a child, you have to share, well, you don't have to share. You have to be generous, and then you will share. So when you don't really mean, I'm going to take half the candy from you because you have to share. Well, then who's becoming more generous? And why will he next time want to share? No, he won't. You just took half his candies away. So in chinuch, we have to be certain, and it's not that complicated, we just have to be sure that we really are being mechanech, not just imposing rules. Imposing rules is not chinuch. On the contrary, when you impose rules, you can expect that a smart kid is going to find all sorts of ways of getting around the rules. They're not stupid. So many times when we say something to children, we think we've taught them something, and really we haven't at all. We say to a child, how many times do I have to tell you not to lie? That's a good message. Where's the chinuch information here? How many times do I have to tell you? This is not a message. Or, don't you lie to me. And the message is, you upset me terribly when you do that. Yeah? And the message? So I heard the 7-year-old kid say to his 6-year-old brother, I told you to wait till mommy left. Don't you know how to do things? It upsets her, so you wait till she leaves. So where is the chinuch lesson? There's not.